Hey guys, Rachel from Past Building Consultants here. Today we are going to be looking at different types of ramps, very briefly, and where you can find details and specifications for those. Oh, hello Guppy, and Guppy's come to say hello as well. 1428, AS 1428, which is the Australian standard for design for access and mobility. Part 1, general requirements for access, new building work. Now, this is where, and it starts on page 23, and Guppy's going to come and sit on it. Okay, I'm going to let him sit on it because he's a bit feisty at the moment, and he might attack me if I don't let him sit down. Okay, so I'll just talk around. I'll just talk around Guppy and his requirements. Basically, is how we're going to do this. Hey, mate. Hey. So on page 23 of AS 1428 Part 1, it begins to talk about the different kinds of ramps and walkways. And come over here. Come on, over here, mate. Thank you. And it's really quite important to differentiate between them and describe them correctly, because just to give you an idea, a walkway, which is 1 in 20 or less gradient, so 1 in 25, 1 in 33, and less than that, a walkway is going to have slightly different requirements than a ramp, and less onerous ones. So ensuring that you know what your gradients are and whether it's a walkway or a ramp is quite important, as is knowing what the gradients are so you can determine the intervals required between landings and what size those landings should be, and ensuring that you're checking to make sure that you know that you're bearing in mind any changes in direction, or if it's a curved ramp or walkway, for example. Also in there are details of step ramps, threshold ramps, and curb ramps, and all three are subtly different. So you need to be aware of the differences between them, and also make sure you're referring to them correctly. So a curb ramp is where you have a ramp maybe from a footpath down onto a roadway. That's a common scenario for that one, and making sure that those are specified correctly in terms of gradients, widths, and that kind of thing. Similarly with step ramps and threshold ramps as well. So generally the shorter the ramp, then the steeper that it can be, but there are very specific rules around those, and you just need to be aware of what you're specifying. Even things like your surfaces of the ramps as well, your handrails, any handrail extensions, making sure that handrail extensions aren't encroaching onto paths of travel, so that they're not causing a hazard in themselves, that they're correct diameter and shape. Also considering if maybe raised domed buttons might be a better alternative than tactile ground surface indicators or TGSIs, particularly in situations, for example, aged care facilities or dwelling type scenarios where either occupants or most of the occupants like to find TGSIs difficult to negotiate because they're not very comfortable to negotiate, or where you're trying to sort of show that it's more of a home environment and not an institutional environment as well, and then you can maybe have domed buttons instead, but that may have to be a performance solution with your building certifier, so you can't necessarily just adjust what's in AS 1428 for your particular building type. You would have to have performance solutions for those. But again, one thing that crops up quite regularly is as soon as you put a gradient in there, people automatically assume that it is a ramp. And as I say, if it's less than 1 in 20 or less, then that can be determined as a walkway, and you don't need TGSIs. So yeah, just be mindful of that, because that can save you money. That's probably about it. So AS 1428 is the place where we go for information. That's 1428 Part 1. There is also information in the Specialist Disability Accommodation Standards as well, but really they're just taken from AS 1428. So that's it for today, guys. Goodbye from Guppy and I. Have a wonderful week. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.